Hello everyone, this is Sydney, and this is my final video for 2023. This is my reading log of November 2023. I'm thinking about doing a tour fairly soon, just once I get everything put away. So, disregarding that, let me go ahead and get started with the reading log. So, I am going to start with series or publishers that I read the most from to the publishers I read the least from, starting highest volume, lowest volumes. First of all, we have Dragon Ghost House Hunting 9. In this volume, we have Letty's father coming back to try and get in contact with Letty again and figure out where things go from there. And it really definitely feels like we're setting up for the end game of the series. I say end game, but it's a series about a dragon looking for a house. It's not anything mind breaking or boggling. It's still fun. I am enjoying it definitely. Then we have Volume 8 of 2.5 Dimensional Seduction. I'm really enjoying this series a lot so far. This is a very emotional volume with a lot of good character moments in it. Eiichiro Oda recommended this series when it first started, and I'm so glad I picked it up, even if I'm not generally a huge fan of a lot of fan service. Next we have I'm in Love with the Villainess, Volume 5. I believe we're only a few volumes away from finishing this series. I don't know exactly how many. The light novel was only 5 volumes, if I remember correctly. In this volume, we are introduced to a new rival character for the main character, Claire, and it's kind of really getting the relationship between Claire and the villainess moving forward, and then things going on from there. So it definitely feels like we're making a lot of progress in this volume, especially compared to how um, kind of slice of life the series has been up to this point, not really fully building the romance. Then we have Volume 5 of His Majesty the Demon King's Housekeeper. I'm enjoying this still so far. I'm not sure where the plot's going to go. It seems like one half of the problem has been solved, and I'm really not sure what's going to go on from here. I don't remember too many specifics of the volume, but it's still an enjoyable romance with interesting cleaning tips in there. Then we have No Longer Allowed in Another World. This is Volume 4. This series is by the creators of... I say this every time and I never remember. It is that dang... It's the series about a Super Sentai guy falling in love with a villain girl. And then their relationship. I never remember the name of it. I'll remember after this video ends. Regardless, again with this series, it seemed like the plot was going one place and then it decided to take a left turn and do something else. So I'm kind of just holding my breath, seeing how the series is going to go from here. It definitely does feel like we go to a place, we pick up a new party member, we solve this problem at the moment. Next up, we have The Weakest Tamer Began on a Journey to Pick Up Trash, Volume 4. This is getting an anime soon. It's my partner's series that I'm also reading. I enjoy it. Yeah. It's a series about this girl who's too weak to really do well in her village and ends up befriending a slime who is able to absorb trash, and she travels through on this journey. I think at this point she's trying to get to the capital. She hasn't gotten there yet. She did have a bit of a scare having to wait in a camp with a bunch of knights in this volume. And we get a little bit of, not controversy, a little bit of mystery, a little bit of intrigue. That's what I'm looking for in this volume. I definitely say give the anime a shot when it comes out to see if you want to check out the manga. Next we have My Dear Friend Nokotan Volume 4. This is enjoyable. It's a gag series. There's not a lot to it. It's just a lighthearted gag comedy series about a dear girl and a ex-delinquent girl who is school president now. And I enjoyed it a lot the first volume, and I think I'm starting to get some of the enjoyment back in this volume. It definitely does feel like just kind of a nothing series. It's just lighthearted comedy and not much else. Then we have the opposite with My Girlfriend's Child Volume 3. I am very much enjoying this. It's a drama about a young girl who experiences a pregnancy in her teenage years, and it's how her boyfriend's there to support her and how it unfolds within their family, the family of the girl and the family of the boy. And it's a very, very good drama. I don't want to spoil too much about it, so I definitely recommend to check it out if you're into that sort of thing. Then we have Sidney'sMangaHoard Witch Romy Volume 2. I am very much enjoying this series. It's very abstract and weird. My only problem is that it's extraordinarily slow to release. Like, the first volume came out what feels like 2 years ago. I'm not sure exactly how long ago it was, but the slow release means that you're going to forget most of the stuff that happened in the first volume. The art's great, and the premise and concepts used in it are pretty good too. Maybe wait until the series ends before you pick it up, just so you don't have that long wait time of just not knowing what's happening. Next we have a final volume, which is Anti-Romance Volume 2. To be honest, I really didn't care for this much at all. It was just another BL in the endless storm of BLs. The romance wasn't great. The characters weren't that interesting. I feel like it's a controversial opinion. It seems like a lot of people like it, but I just kind of just dragged myself through it. It's about relationship between two roommates who one of them always seems to want to get the relationship moving forward, and the other one never does. Past roommates into, dating each other. Of course, things wrap up in this volume. This series concludes, but I mean, personally, I wasn't a fan. Next, we have a first volume for Seven Seas Black Knight Parade by Hikaru Nakamura. This is the creator of Saint Young Men and Arakawa Under the Bridge. This is a very interesting series about a young boy who ends up working for it. I think they call him Black Santa because his character is a black demon, or a black creature. But of course, that just sounds weird to say in English because of the connotations of that. Anyways, he works to develop the coal for naughty kids, and we have this new character getting introduced, or this new person getting introduced into working for him and learning about the process of being the Black Santa. I don't want to talk too much more about it because it'll spoil some stuff that happens in that volume. Next up, we have Yokai Cats Volume 6, starting with the Seven Seas Oversized. This is a great 4-coma series, full color, real short, real brief, snippets of comics in here. It's very fun to read. I'm loving everything by Pandania, the creator of this so far, so definitely recommend it if you're into that sort of thing. Next, we have Volume 3 of Who Made Me a Princess. This was recommended to me by a friend, and I am very much enjoying it so far, especially with how the father is very doting, but also very twisted, and I feel like twisted characters are very interesting to read about. I'm trying to see in this volume. Oh, yes, we do have... Well, I don't know if I want to discuss too much the contents of the volume, but let's just say a character is introduced that was supposed to be in the original timeline, and we get to see how the father reacts to that character in this volume. It's a great series. Definitely check it out. Then we have A Stepmother's Marchen Volume 2. This release was very fast compared to when I got the last one. I think I had this in my last month's reading log back in October. I'm not sure. But we have a lot of... I feel like this is definitely one of the heavier political series with villainesses, because the main villainess character, or ex-villainess, because she was a villainess and then got the chance to relive earlier years in her life to help raise the children better, has to basically take over the political house until her eldest son gets married. And there's a lot of political intrigue and drama in this series, but it's a very good read. It just takes a while to read because there's a lot of weight to it. Then we have a one-shot by Seven Seas, My Pancreas Broke, But My Life Got Better by Nagata Kobe, I think, yes. The creator of My Lesbian Experience with Loneliness and a few other series. This is technically probably not the first volume I should read of theirs. I should probably start from the very first of her autobiographical works. But I did just pick this up this month and I wanted to try it. And it does give a good explanation of the story so far and how this book works into that story. This is about her... think it's her second bout with pancreatitis due to alcoholism, and her trying to overcome that and change her life for the better. It's a really good read. I think she's got a lot of great autobiographical work. I've only read this one. I'm definitely wanting to read the rest, though. Finally, for Seven Seas, we have a first volume, The Dangerous Convenience Store, Volume 1. This is a BL about a college boy who works at a convenience store and catches the eye of a Yakuza who, spoilers for the first volume, they definitely get it on. Very explicit and very, like, horniness comes fast in this series, but sex happens later to the volume. It's fun. It's a good read. The Yakuza guy's a little bit cold at first, which is kind of fun to read about. And we get to see like some jealousy develop in their relationship. So this is a good read. I enjoyed it. It's just very, very horny, I should say. So next I'm going to be going over the things I've read by Viz in this month, starting with My Hero Academia 36. This continues the fight between All for One and the forces of good, as it were. We have the fight between Dalby and Shoto in this volume. This is just another part of the war arc. I really can't get into a lot of details without spoiling things. There were a lot of intense fights this volume, but I definitely feel like the war arc has kind of just kept dragging on, somewhat similar to how Naruto was near the end. I mean, it's just my personal opinion that I feel like the villain should have died already, and I feel like we're just kind of running in circles, but regardless. Next is The Gray Man Volume 28. We have even more backstory continuation in this volume. I'm enjoying the backstory, but the series has definitely changed a lot from the beginning. I think I'm still enjoying it. It's just not as much as I was when I first started the series and it was still fresh. It definitely feels like the plot has gone 1,000 different places. And now I'm going to end the negativity because those two are the ones that I'm like the most iffy or negative about. Then we have Kaguya-sama Volume 27. We're wrapping up the story in this volume. 28 is going to be the last one, finding out where everybody's going, how things are going to progress with relationships and that sort of thing. This is going to be a double cover where the next volume is going to, show Kaguya's face and everybody else in the group shot. So I'm excited to see this series, and I've enjoyed it a lot. It's a great comedy romance series with a lot of interesting games and fights. Next we have Jujutsu Kaisen Volume 21. This is continuing in the Calling Games arc. We have a fight this volume with a outcome that I did not see coming and was almost scared it was going to be something very bad before it wasn't. Again, I'm being vague because it's a shonen and it's got like a lot of intense fights that I kind of don't want to spoil. But it's still great. The only problem with Jujutsu Kaisen pretty much is just choreography is hard to follow with fights. Next we have Mashal Volume 14. This is alright. We are kind of doing a like 1-on-1, 2-on-1 sort of fight. It's similar to what happened like 10 volumes ago back in the arc with the guy who turns people into puppets, where it's people, getting split off and fighting, which I normally really like, but it also does feel like the main characters are a little bit too overpowered. Aside from Mashal, who's supposed to be overpowered, it feels like they're able to defeat things a lot easier than they should be able to, so I'm not a huge fan of that. But Mashal's wrapping up in like 4 volumes, I think, so they're definitely trying to get all the fights out of the way. Next we have Mal Volume 14. This series is just going to keep going, and I'm definitely going to keep enjoying it. It feels like they just keep adding more and more layers to the underlying mysteries of the series. This is kind of like Inuyasha in a way, where it's a girl sent back to time in like feudal Japan and living her life in that time period. There's a lot of mystery, but the mystery doesn't start till later in the series. I'm still very much enjoying it. Like I said a few times before, Mal was kind of alright at the start, and then it started hooking me. I don't know exactly what volume it did. Next, we have Chainsaw Man Volume 13. I love Fujimoto's works. I think Chainsaw Man's a great work as well. Um, the choreography is not the best in my opinion, but the story, the plot, and the characters are just so ridiculous and really like kind of unpredictable that I really do enjoy this, and I'm looking forward heavily to the next season of anime when that. Well, they did announce the next thing's going to be a movie adapting one of the arcs, but I assume it's going to get a second season of the anime. I'm looking forward to that when it does. Next, we have Spy Family Volume 10. We do have a very intense backstory in this volume that takes up like half of the volume. I think it's a really good backstory. Then they kind of followed up with like a lot of lighter chapters to kind of help you breathe from how intense it was. Spy Family is a really slow release, so I think we're actually getting close to catching up to what's out with Japan right now. Then we have Sakamoto Days Volume 10, another series that got to 10 volumes this month with me reading. We're continuing more things in the assassination school. And we also figured out the mystery of, again, it's hard trying to be vague and trying to explain this. We figured out a mystery at the school that they've been working out to try and figure out these last several volumes, and things are getting very intense, and it seems like things are going to really start happening in the next volume. Then we have Blue Box Volume 7. This is a fantastic shonen sports romance. Not a lot to say about this volume. It is, I mean, these are fairly, I don't want to say uneventful, but it's difficult to explain. This happens, that happens, that happens, because I don't remember the specifics of it. And there's a lot of small things that happen. Right. We did have kind of like an exhibition match this volume that did really move one of the characters along with their goals. It was, if I say who it was, we're going to know the outcome of the match pretty much. So I don't want to say. Next we have Helk Volume 6. I believe this concluded Helk's backstory. Let's see. We had like an entire volume of backstory for Helk, where he was basically just saying, this is who I am, and this is how things got this way. Let's see. Yes, and then we had the characters finally getting close to returning to the mainland. I did like learning about Helk and why he is the way he is. The series is, I think it's pretty good. It's not as great as people say it is, in my opinion, especially because it started off kind of iffy. But, I mean, I'm enjoying it a lot so far. Or I'm enjoying it pretty well so far. Next up, we have Dark Gathering Volume 4. This series is definitely getting better as I read it. They're starting to talk about these haunted locations they're going to that kind of have a correlation in real world Japan. And they're starting to be more proactive with collecting ghosts for a certain reason. Well, I mean, the reason's kind of explained in the first volume, like trying to save. Well, this is for a different reason, actually. That isn't explained to like the second or third volume, so I don't want to say. But they're starting to get more proactive with collecting spirits to help them fight in this big fight they're trying to plan, and they're going to these very haunted spots that are references to real spots in Japan. So I'm really interested about that. I like seeing real world places replicated in manga and anime. Next, we have my special one, Volume 4. I'm kind of losing interest in the series, to be honest. I did like it. I think I liked it better when they were still kind of building up to the romance, but now that the romance has already happened and they're dating now, it does feel like things are just kind of. I'm not a huge fan of how the romance is being handled. I'll give it a couple more volumes to see how I really feel about it, though, because this is the only volume where I felt kind of meh about it. Then we have Like a Butterfly Volume 3. This one's still really good. It does, the quiet, shy main character does kind of make me think of Comey in a more serious light. I enjoy the art a lot. The main character is very beautiful, very well drawn. And we're getting a slow burn to building up the romance between the main character and her love interest, which I do enjoy when that happens. It's nice when it's not just jumping straight into a romance. Then we have Sakura Saku Volume 1. This is the debut volume of a new series by the creator of, I think this is A Sign of Affection, Yosaki Saka. I don't remember. Maybe Alhara Ride? I'm really not certain. Again, like with Like a Butterfly, this is a series with very beautiful art. Actually, Sumo Ishida might be Sign of Affection. Yosaki Saka, I think, is something else. Anyways, very beautiful art. A main character who basically is just trying to help a lot of people out because she was saved one day. And she's trying to meet this boy who saved her by performing these good deeds. It does. I think it's an interesting premise for a series, and I want to see how it goes. I think it's only going to be like 9 volumes, so it's not going to be super long. But it's definitely worth a read so far, in my opinion. But it is just the first volume, so I don't want to get too ahead of myself. Then we have Trojan X Volume 4. Let me see if I remember what happened in this volume. Right. Last volume had the thing that I really wasn't a fan of. I can't really explain that without going into spoilers for volume. I can't really explain that in general without going into big spoilers. But we do have the characters continuing their school life and learning about this old threat to Tokyo that used to be a major problem, and about this kind of faded one type of Chojin that happens every X years. I don't remember the extreme specifics. There's a lot of interesting things in this series. I was just kind of not a fan of one of the plot developments in the last volume, but I think I'm still enjoying it. So that was all the Viz series. Next, I'm going to get into the Yin Press series. First of all, Shadow's House Volume 5. I'm really enjoying this. I'm kind of getting a bit difficult to keep track of the plot sometimes because there's a lot of moving pieces to it. It's kind of hard to see the spine in this lighting. But we do learn more about the living dolls in this volume and how their fates are influenced by the manor and the people who run the manor. And we get to kind of see them rebel a bit. More details would be more spoilers. It's a fantastic series, though. The anime's out if you want to check that out first to see if you want to check out the manga. But the manga's only 5 volumes right now, so it's not too much of a commitment, at least in English. And we have Oshinoko Volume 4. This volume is getting into the first major event for Komabi. Is that the name of the B Komachi? That's it. Of B Komachi's idol career, which is the new B Komachi, not the old group that the original idol was part of. So we're kind of getting the way these characters are interacting with each other and preparing for the big match, as it was. I enjoyed this, but I mean, I've already seen the anime up past where the manga is in English, so I knew it was going to happen, but it was still good. I still really enjoy the art style, and I enjoy the story being told in this series. Next, we have Honey Lemon Soda, Volume 4. This is another one that I really grew to like more the more I read it. I love the dynamic between the main character and her love interest, and how the main character is really developing a sense of self, thanks in part to her love interest and thanks in part to her own self-growth. It's a very empowering story, and I can see why it's 22 volumes, but I'm also wondering how in the world the plot has just kept moving forward that long. Next, we have the final volume of Yokohama Station SF. This did feel like a very rushed conclusion. I liked the first 2 volumes. I liked what they were setting up, and it felt like we just kind of were like, oh, there's 1 volume left, and we just crushed everything into one tight package, which is unfortunate because the series is definitely, I feel like it deserved to be longer and kind of explain the things going on more. I don't know if this was intentional or if this was if the series just kind of had to end because something happened with the way the manga is being adapted. I really don't know, but in my opinion, I feel like it had a rushed conclusion, and it kind of soured the story for me. Next, we have The Villainess Stands the Heroes, Volume 2. Yes. This is just another cute volume of a Villainess series. This one's nothing too remarkable to write home about. Let's see if I can remember much about what happened. Right. Yes. Yeah, I can't really explain too much about what happens in this volume. I read the summary and I still don't remember too many specifics. I think it's definitely good. It's just not a lot happens, and I'm like, oh man, amazing. I can't remember everything there, but I do remember her fangirling about her her cohort's disguise and how well he was able to disguise himself, and her just fangirling to this new girl who has joined her group, and the new girl just being weirded out by her in general. It's good. It's a villainess series, so I'm always gonna love those. But there's not really a lot I can say about it, honestly. That's the last standard size yen press. Now for oversized yen press, we have Why Ray Liana Ended Up at the Duke's Mansion, Volume 5. We have a lot of developments happening in this volume. We have I just I read too many manhwa this month, so it's hard to remember exactly what happened in each one of them. Uh, yeah, I really just I don't know. I can't remember anything from this volume. Um, I definitely still enjoy it. I just can't remember specifics of what happened in this volume. Unfortunately, I read the summary. I looked in the pages, and I'm just like, she went to the carnival, won a bunch of matches. What else did she do? I think it ended with a cliffhanger of. Oh gosh, that's right. Yes, she did. Yes, there was an attempt on a child's life. She did save the child, and then Duke Knight found out about it. But I just can't remember much about what happened, honestly. Which is unfortunate because I love the series. I think it's a great series. I just don't remember the specifics of it. I do remember about Villains are Destined to Die Volume 5 because this is the volume where the main character was falsely imprisoned, and it's a lot of court drama trying to figure out who done it and why they did it. It definitely feels like just kind of they're like, okay, let's do a really brief court drama and then immediately jump past that because it felt like things wrapped themselves up a little too neatly, in my opinion. Uh, Fantastic series though. I am really enjoying it. I do want to say one big spoiler for this volume is that the affection meters are now gone. She can no longer see them unless she pays money for it because she won money from the hunting tournament, which is a really interesting twist, and I want to see how it affects the series going forward, how it affects her decisions. I feel like this is, in my opinion, I feel like it's better than Ray Liana. Ended up at the Duke's Mansion, but not as good as the Abandoned Empress. So we also have let's see, how many? Okay, um, just one new villainess this month. We have the villainess Turns the Hourglass, I believe is what it's called. Yes, this is a series about a villainess who seems to have been plotted against by the heroine in a kind of menacing way, and on her death day, she gets a chance to rewind the clock and start from an earlier age, which does sound like a typical villainess plot, but I really did enjoy this one. I enjoyed the way the story is developing and how the heroine is not exactly a pure, pristine character, how she also is kind of a villainess in her own right, and how the villainess that we're reading about is kind of turning her against, like, turning all the heroine's attempts to bash her against her, and it's really interesting and fun to read so far. I would definitely recommend it to anyone interested in the series or in the interested in the kind of concept of villainesses and time travel, time reversing, whatever the subgenre is called. Then we have two standard size Kodansha releases. First of all, Go Go Loser Rangers Volume 7. We finished off the arc with the exams, and now we're getting into this new Ranger Corps that the main character was assigned to, and they're going to go fight against one of the bosses and trying to find where a lot of the other Rangers who disappeared are going to. When I say Rangers, I mean like Ranger Corps members, not the actual colored Rangers. Um, And we have a lot of that happening this volume, which is really interesting. I did enjoy this volume a lot more than I've enjoyed the last few. I don't know if it's because the plot's simpler to follow or not, but I'm definitely glad that I'm starting to enjoy it more. Next, we have Welcome to Demon School, Iruma-kun, Volume 4. Great series. Not really too much to say about it. We wrap up the arc with... What is his name? Amy? I think it's Amy. It doesn't say on the back. We wrap up the arc with Amy and the festival. Fantastic arc, fantastic ending to it. I love this series to death, and always looking forward to reading new volumes of it, even if the anime already kind of told me what's going to happen. Then we have Hitorajime My Hero, Volume 14. I'm honestly just kind of reading this to conclusion when it eventually ends. I've lost a lot of interest and hope in it, and I'm just kind of seeing what happens. In this volume, we learned about a massive debt, and then the massive debt's taken care of immediately. So I'm like, okay, well, that's why. Anybody who likes the series, I don't mean to offend, but I just personally, I just don't like it. There's not a lot to enjoy about it for me personally. Then we have One Dance, Volume 7, yes. This is concluding the dance battle competition that the team went to. A lot of dynamic, very powerful dancing in this volume, which you can say that about most of the series in general. The dancing's, it's difficult to follow, but it feels like it's difficult to follow because I don't picture things in my head well, and I can't see how the movements move into each other. It doesn't feel like they're poorly drawn. It just feels like I don't have quite the imagination to follow along with the dance movements perfectly. So I just look at the drawings and I'm like, oh, swirly swirl, cool. Oh wow, that's good, that's cool. I really want to see if this becomes an anime, to see what they're going to do about the dancing and the music, especially because there's a lot of licensed tracks referenced in this volume, or in all the volumes, but it's still a really interesting read, even if I have a hard time following the dancing exactly. Then we have One Oversized Kodansha, Quality Assurance in Another World, Volume 4. We have a lot more developments going on in this volume about the role of the NPC girl with them, and them finding another debugger that's kind of trapped and trying to figure out what to do about that. And of course, a big threat that's fighting them, or not fighting them, but trying to fight other things, and they're just kind of getting in the way of it, and they're trying to stop him rampaging. It's a lot going on at the moment. A lot of it wraps up in this volume, and then we have just kind of what are we going to do going forward. I think they're going to just be continuing adventuring, trying to find debuggers to remove the stones from, so they can try and kind of right this world again. But the rest, we only have one from each of these publishers. We have Volume 4 of Sengoku Yoko from Tokyo Pop. Very much enjoying this series. We do have... I don't know, the last volume was the one with that thing that happened. I'm being vague on purpose, just to not spoil things. Right, we do have a training arc in this volume, which is really interesting. The way they handle it, it definitely reminded me of Mar, with like these pocket dimensions and being able to have like training for an indefinite period of time when no time passes in the real world. Don't want to spoil too much. Sengoku Yoko, it's fantastic so far. I hope the anime it's getting is going to be better than the anime for Lucifer and the Biscuit Hammer, but you never know. It might be just as poor of an adaptation. Fingers crossed, though. Next, we have Tear Moon Empire Volume 2. This is a great villainess series about a girl who dies because she's villainess, bad leader, kind of like a revolution sort of thing with the people. And then goes back in time, and she's just trying to prevent that from happening again, but she's still kind of as conniving and manipulative as she was in her previous life, but she's doing it in a way where people think that she's being genuine, she's being kind, which is, it's just fun and funny. The anime is pretty good for this one too. I'd recommend to check that out if you're not a fan of reading the mangas. Definitely just check out this series, in my opinion. It's one of the better villainesses, even for people who aren't that interested in the villainess subgenre. Next, we have Mr. Villain's Day Off, Volume 2. This is just kind of like a small slice of life series. Not a lot to talk about that happens. It's just misadventures on the villain's day off and how things happen. It's nothing that deep. It's just a fun, cute read, though. I don't know, but I think that's getting an anime. Could be completely making that up. Then I read the first volume of First Night with the Duke. I got all three of these, but I didn't want to binge through all three of them. I'm really enjoying this, even though it's not a villainess. I think it's a great fantasy series so far. Again, it's got the twisted, sadistic main male lead, which I'm always interested in. They're always fun to read about for me personally. Um, it's a good read. It's just a little bit. It's pricier than even like standard manhwa at $23, but yeah, I mean it's got French flaps. That's really cool. I like French flaps. But yeah, looking forward to reading more of this series. But that's it for me this week, probably, or this month, probably this year. I doubt I'll get the tour uploaded before January. So happy holidays to anybody who celebrates them. Hope everything goes well with your year and the next year starts off well with everybody. And I look forward to another year of doing this and putting on a show for y'all. Thanks, everybody, and have a good one.